The main Devour fleet arrived exactly when Dr. Hanul had predicted. As they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Imperial core system, the combined sensors of the Human Imperial Alliance recorded numbers that seemed impossible. 2,347 Devourer vessels, ranging from scouts the size of frigates to massive bioships larger than space stations. Their organic hulls pulsed with dark energy, and tentacles of living shadow reached out to taste the system's energy. On Eternal Throne, Emperor Vexthul stood before the largest tactical display he had ever seen. Red dots representing enemy ships filled the screen like a swarm of deadly insects. Advisor Vorgak, what is your analysis? Vorgak's four eyes had been studying the enemy formation for hours. My lord, even with our combined fleet, we are outnumbered 5-1. But the humans' weapons are effective against them, and our people have learned to fight alongside their technology. Prince Zektar was commanding a mixed squadron of human and imperial ships. The cooperation between the two species had grown stronger with each battle. Father, the human crews are teaching us things we never imagined. Their technology doesn't just make us stronger. It makes us think differently about warfare. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, surrounded by his crew who had become like family over years of fighting together. Captain Sora was coordinating the defense with General Ha-Young's fleets. Commander Taemin was preparing the ship's marines for what might be their final battle. Admiral, Lieutenant Yujin reported, all Allied fleets are in position, 437 ships ready for engagement. Dr. Hanul looked up from her calculations. The stellar collapse weapon is ready. But Admiral, once we begin the process, there's no turning back. The Dauntless will have to stay close to the star to maintain the quantum field. Captain Sora turned to Admiral Kyung-ho. Sir, there has to be another way. We can evacuate the crew to other ships. Kyung-ho shook his head. The quantum core requires constant manual adjustment. Someone has to stay with the ship until the very end to make sure the weapon works. Engineer Dong-hyun was monitoring the ship's systems. Admiral, I can automate most of the process. You don't all need to stay. Yes, we do, Admiral Kyung-ho said firmly. This is our ship, our crew, our responsibility. We knew when we volunteered for this mission that we might not come home. The Devourer fleet began its attack by sending scouts to probe the Allied defenses. These smaller ships moved like living shadows through space, testing the human Imperial formations for weaknesses. Admiral Morketh commanded the main Imperial battle group from his flagship. The old soldier had been skeptical of alien technology, but seeing it in action had changed his mind completely. All Imperial vessels, remember your training. Use the quantum projectiles, not energy weapons. Support the human ship's attack runs. Captain Kralvex was now one of the most experienced Imperial officers at fighting Devourers. His ship Redemption had been fitted with the latest human defensive technology. Imperial Squadron 7, follow my lead. We're going to clear a path for the Dauntless. The battle began when the main Devourer force moved toward the inner system. They came in waves like a dark tide washing over everything in their path. The first wave consisted of 500 vessels, each one hungry for the energy of living worlds. All ships engage. General Ha-Young's voice rang out over the quantum communication network. The human vessels struck first, their advanced weapons tearing holes in space itself. But for every Devourer they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The enemy was learning from each attack, adapting their defenses in real time. Imperial ships provided covering fire, their modified weapons keeping the smaller Devourers away from the human strike craft. The cooperation between the two fleets was perfect, like a deadly dance choreographed by necessity. But the numbers were overwhelming. Admiral, Captain Sora reported, we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. The Devourers are breaking through our outer defenses. Prince Zektar's squadron was fighting desperately against a group of medium-sized Devourers. Human ship resolved, this is Prince Zektar. We need immediate support at coordinates 47 Alpha. On our way, Prince. Imperial ships, prepare for coordinated strike pattern. The young prince watched in amazement as human and Imperial vessels worked together like they had been allies for centuries. But even their perfect cooperation wasn't enough against such overwhelming numbers. Dr. Hanul was monitoring the battle while preparing the stellar weapon. Admiral, if we're going to use the star, we need to begin the process now. The quantum field takes 30 minutes to establish. Admiral Kyung-ho looked around at his bridge crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy to save a civilization they had never met. Begin the stellar collapse sequence. The Dauntless began moving toward the system's star, fighting through waves of devourer ships that tried to intercept it. Captain Kralvex and Admiral Morketh led their fleets in a desperate charge to clear the path. "Imperial command to Dauntless," came Emperor Vexthol's voice. "Admiral Kyung-ho, there must be another way. We cannot accept this sacrifice." "Your Majesty," Admiral Kyung-ho replied, "sometimes the greatest victory requires the ultimate price. Our species will survive because of what we do today." The battle reached its climax as the largest devourer bioships entered the system. These massive creatures were the size of moons with the power to consume entire planets. Their presence changed the very nature of space around them. "Admiral," Lieutenant Yujin called out, "the big ones are heading straight for the populated worlds." Dr. Hanul was working frantically at her station. "Quantum field at 60%. We need 10 more minutes, but 10 minutes might be too long." The massive devourers were already reaching out with energy tentacles toward the inhabited planets of the system. Billions of lives hung in the balance. Prince Zektar made a decision that would have made his father proud. "All Imperial ships, follow me. We're going to buy the Dauntless the time they need." The young prince led a charge directly at the largest devourer, knowing it was probably suicide. His ship and dozens of others fired everything they had at the creature's core. The attack worked. The massive bioship was damaged enough to stop its advance toward the planets. But the effort cost them dearly. Prince Zektar's ship was caught by an energy tentacle and began to be consumed. "Father," the prince transmitted, "tell the humans that knowing them has made us better than we were." Just as Prince Zektar's ship was about to be destroyed, Captain Sora made her own desperate decision. "Admiral, I'm taking a strike team to rescue the prince. Continue with the mission." "Sora, no," Admiral Kyung-ho shouted, but she was already gone, leading 5 human ships in a rescue mission that defied all tactical sense. The rescue succeeded, but barely. Captain Sora's ships managed to free Prince Zektar's vessel and escape, though her own ship was badly damaged. "Quantum field at 90%, Dr. Hanul reported. 5 more minutes. The Devourer fleet seemed to sense what was happening. Every ship began converging on the Dauntless, trying to stop the stellar weapon before it could be completed. "All ships protect the Dauntless," Admiral Morketh ordered. The entire combined fleet moved to shield the human vessel as it approached the star. The final moments were chaos. Ships exploded around them, space itself seemed to be tearing apart, and the star began to pulse with unnatural energy as the quantum field took hold. "Field established," Dr. Hanul announced. "Beginning stellar collapse in 10, 9, 8. Admiral Kyung-ho looked at his crew one last time. "It's been an honor serving with all of you." 7, 6, 5. Through the chaos of battle, Emperor Vexthol's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Kyung-ho, you and your crew will be remembered as the saviors of our civilization. 4, 3, 2. For humanity," Admiral Kyung-ho said quietly. "For the Empire. For all life in the galaxy. 1. Stellar collapse initiated. The star collapsed in on itself, creating a gravitational wave that spread outward at impossible speed. Every Devourer ship caught in the wave was crushed instantly, their biohulls unable to adapt to the fundamental forces of the universe being twisted against them. The Dauntless was consumed first, its crew dying instantly as space-time folded around them. But their sacrifice worked. The gravitational weapon destroyed the entire Devourer fleet in seconds. When the chaos finally ended, the system was quiet. The threat that had nearly destroyed both civilizations was gone. But so was the ship that had started it all. Captain Sora, now commanding the human survivors from her damaged vessel, looked at the space where the Dauntless had been. "Admiral Kyung-ho's final transmission is being broadcast on all frequencies. He says the alliance between our peoples must continue." Emperor Vexthol, standing in his throne room surrounded by advisors and his rescued son, made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. "From this day forward, the Galactic Empire is dissolved. In its place, we establish the Galactic Alliance with humans and all species as equal partners." Vorgak bowed deeply. "My lord, I mean honored ally, this is the beginning of something greater than either of our civilizations could have achieved alone." The first Devourer scout ships appeared at the edge of Imperial space like nightmares made real. They were not built like normal spacecraft. Instead, they looked like enormous sea creatures swimming through the void. with organic hulls that pulsed with dark energy and tentacle-like appendages that reached out to taste the space around them. On the bridge of the Imperial Monitoring Station Outer Watch, Captain Kralvek stared at his sensors in disbelief. He was a veteran of 50 battles, but nothing had prepared him for this sight. Communications, send emergency signal to Imperial Command. Unknown hostile vessels entering Sector 7. Before he could finish the transmission, the Devourer scouts moved. They didn't use engines like normal ships. Instead, they seemed to fold space around themselves, appearing next to the monitoring station in seconds. The station's weapons fired automatically, bright energy beams striking the organic hulls of the alien ships. But instead of causing damage, the beams were absorbed into the creature's skin, which changed color and texture as it adapted to the attack. "Weapons have no effect," shouted the tactical officer. "They're absorbing our energy." Captain Kralvex opened his mouth to give retreat orders, but it was too late. Tentacles of dark matter reached out from the Devourer ships and touched the station. Everything they touched simply disappeared, consumed and converted into energy to feed the creatures. The Outer Watch Station, home to 10,000 Imperial citizens, was gone in 30 seconds. On Eternal Throne, Emperor Vexthal received the terrible news. The monitoring station had transmitted its final moments before being destroyed. The recording showed weapons that couldn't hurt the enemy, and defenses that meant nothing against their hunger. "How many more monitoring stations do we have in the Outer Rim?" the Emperor asked. Admiral Morketh checked his tactical displays. 17, my lord. All heavily armed and shielded. Contact them immediately. Tell them to retreat to the inner systems. But as they watched, one by one, the stations went silent. Each transmission ended the same way, weapons firing uselessly at creatures that absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Vorgak was studying the attack patterns. "My lord, they're not just destroying our stations. They're learning from each encounter. Watch how they adapt to our weapons faster each time." Prince Zektar felt sick as he watched the recordings. "Father, we need the humans' help right now." In space near the neutral station, Admiral Kyung-ho was coordinating with human fleets across the galaxy. Lieutenant Yu Jin, his communications officer, was working with quantum arrays that allowed instant contact across impossible distances. "Admiral," Yu Jin reported, "General Hayoung's fleet has engaged Devourer scouts in the Centauri sector. 17 enemy vessels destroyed with minimal casualties." Captain Sora was studying the tactical data. "The Devourers in this galaxy are larger than the ones we fought before. They've been feeding for longer." Dr. Hanul looked up from her science station. "I'm detecting quantum resonance patterns that suggest a hive mind structure. These creatures are sharing information about Imperial weapons instantly across their entire force." Admiral Kyung-ho understood the implications immediately. Every time an Imperial ship fires at them, every Devourer in the galaxy learns how to defend against that weapon. On Eternal Throne, the reality of the situation was becoming clear. Emperor Vexthal was receiving reports of devastating losses from across his empire. Entire star systems were going dark as the Devourers consumed everything in their path. "My lord," Admiral Morketh said reluctantly, "our conventional weapons are completely useless. Every attack just makes them stronger." Prince Zektar stepped forward. "Father, the humans offered to modify our ships with their technology. We need to accept their help immediately." The Emperor looked around his throne room at advisors who had served him for centuries. All of them showed the same expression of helpless fear. For the first time in 10,000 years, the mighty Galactic Empire faced an enemy they couldn't defeat. "Contact Admiral Kyung-ho," the Emperor said finally. "Tell him we accept his alliance." The integration began immediately. Human engineers led by Lieutenant Commander Dong Hyun boarded Imperial ships to install new defensive systems. The technology was beyond anything the Empire had seen. Commander Taemin worked with Imperial Marines to train them in anti-Devourer tactics. "Your energy weapons are useless against them," he explained to a group of confused Imperial soldiers. "But physical projectiles fired at high velocity can penetrate their adaptive armor before it can adjust." Captain Kralvex had survived the destruction of Outer Watch by evacuating in an escape pod. Now he found himself on the bridge of his new ship, an Imperial cruiser fitted with human technology. The changes were incredible. "Sir," his new human engineering advisor explained, "the quantum shields don't try to stop the Devourer's attacks. Instead, they redirect the energy into our own weapon systems." Kralvex was struggling to understand. So when they attack us, we become stronger. Exactly. It's the same principle they use, but in reverse. Lieutenant Yujin had established communication networks between all Allied ships using quantum entanglement technology. For the first time, Imperial forces could coordinate across vast distances without delay. All ships, came General Hai Young's voice through the new communication system. Prepare for coordinated attack pattern Delta 7. Imperial vessels will provide covering fire while human ships deliver the killing blow. Admiral Morketh was commanding the Imperial portion of the combined fleet. He had been skeptical of working with aliens, but watching human tactics in action was changing his mind. Human vessels, this is Admiral Morketh. Imperial fleet is in position and ready to support. The first major battle took place in the Valyrian system, where Devourer forces had surrounded a heavily populated planet. The combined human Imperial fleet arrived to find dozens of the organic ships feeding on the planet's energy. Imperial ships begin suppressing fire, ordered Admiral Kyung-ho. Target the smaller vessels and drive them away from the planet. The Imperial ships opened fire with their modified weapons. Instead of pure energy, they now fired projectiles wrapped in quantum fields. The Devourer's adaptive armor couldn't adjust quickly enough to these new attacks. Human strike force, you are clear for attack run, Admiral Morketh reported. Enemy defenses are disrupted. The human ships moved like dancers through space, their advanced engines allowing impossible maneuvers. They fired weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself, striking at the Devourer's core energy systems. But the battle was harder than expected. These Devourers were larger and stronger than the ones humanity had fought before. Several Imperial ships were destroyed despite their new defenses, and even human vessels took heavy damage. Admiral, Captain Sora reported, "We're losing ships faster than projected. These creatures have evolved since our last encounter." Dr. Hanul was analyzing the enemy patterns. They're using some kind of quantum tunneling to bypass our shields. They've learned from fighting us before. In the middle of the battle, something unexpected happened. Captain Kralvex, commanding his modified Imperial cruiser, found himself working perfectly with his human crew advisors. The combination of Imperial firepower and human technology was more effective than either side had hoped. Human vessel courage, Kralvex broadcast. This is Imperial ship redemption. We have multiple Devourers moving toward your position. Acknowledged redemption. Can you provide covering fire while we reposition? Already on it. All weapons concentrate fire on targets bearing 27 Mark IV. The battle raged for 6 hours, but finally the combined fleet drove off the Devourer force. The planet was saved, though badly damaged from the feeding process. Prince Zektar, who had insisted on joining the battle aboard his father's command ship, was amazed by what he had witnessed. The cooperation between our peoples. It's like we were meant to fight together. But Admiral Kyung-ho knew this was just the beginning. This was only a scout force. The main Devourer fleet is still coming. Vorgak was studying the sensor readings from the battle. Admiral, based on their attack patterns and the damage they caused, I estimate the main fleet contains over 2,000 vessels. The throne room fell silent. Even with their combined forces, the Allies had barely defeated a few dozen Devourers. How could they possibly face 2,000? Lieutenant Yujin was receiving new reports from across the galaxy. Admiral, multiple Devourer fleets have been detected moving through hyperspace. They're converging on the Imperial core system. Dr. Hanul checked her calculations twice before reporting. They'll arrive in 18 hours. Emperor Vexthul looked at the tactical displays showing enemy forces heading straight for his home system. How many ships can we assemble for the defense? General Hai Young's image appeared on the main screen. Combined human and Imperial forces total 437 vessels, against an estimated 2,000 Devourers. Admiral Morketh had fought impossible odds before, but never like this. Do we have any chance of victory? Admiral Kyung-ho was quiet for a long moment. There is one possibility, but it would require a sacrifice that... He stopped and looked around at the faces watching him. It would require destroying the Dauntless to trigger a controlled stellar collapse. The emergency alarms echoed through the neutral station, as every screen lit up with incoming data. The deep space sensors were detecting movement unlike anything the Empire had ever recorded. Massive shapes moving through hyperspace at impossible speeds, heading straight for Imperial territory. On Eternal Throne, Emperor Vexthul was receiving reports from across his domain. My lord, reported his communication officer. The Outer Rim monitoring stations are confirming multiple large contacts. Size estimates range from 5 to 20 kilometers each. Admiral Morketh was studying the tactical displays. Those readings must be wrong. Nothing can be that large and still move through hyperspace. But Vorgak the Wise was comparing the sensor data to the holographic images the humans had shown them. The signatures match exactly what the humans warned us about. These are the Devourers. Back on the neutral station, Admiral Kyung-ho was speaking rapidly into his communication device. Priority message to all Terran fleets. The Devourers have awakened ahead of schedule. Implement emergency protocols immediately. Dr. Hanul was working with her portable computers. Admiral, I'm detecting at least 40 major contacts. This is a much larger force than attacked our galaxy. Commander Taemin looked grim. They've been feeding and growing during their hibernation period. We knew this was a possibility. Prince Zektar was trying to understand what he was hearing. You mean there are more of your ships out there? Admiral Kyung-ho nodded. We didn't come here with just one vessel. We've been positioning fleets throughout your galaxy for months, preparing for this moment. Admiral Morketh's suspicion flared again. You've been placing war fleets in our territory without permission. We've been trying to save your civilization, Dr. Hanul replied firmly. The Devourers will be here in days, not months. Your empire needs to decide right now if you want our help, or if you want to face them alone. Emperor Vexthul was getting reports from his fleet commanders. Every Imperial ship in the system was preparing for battle, but none of them knew what they were preparing to fight. Advisor Vorgak, what is your honest assessment of our military capabilities against these Devourers? Vorgak looked at the data again. He had studied warfare for 300 years and he had never seen anything like this. My lord, based on what the humans have shown us, our weapons will be completely ineffective. The Devourer's bioadaptive armor learns from each attack and becomes immune to it. The Emperor was beginning to understand the situation. For the first time in his long life, his empire faced an enemy they couldn't defeat. What do the humans propose? On the station, Admiral Kyung-ho was explaining their strategy. We need to combine our fleets immediately. Our ships have weapons designed to fight the Devourers, but we don't have enough vessels to cover your entire galaxy. Your ships can be modified with our defensive technology. Impossible, Admiral Morketh declared. Imperial ships don't need modifications from aliens. Commander Taemin activated his communicator. Admiral, I'm getting reports from our scout ships. The Devourers have just consumed the Kelmac system in your outer rim. 3 billion inhabitants. The room fell silent. The Kelmac system was one of the Empire's most heavily defended sectors. If it had fallen without even sending a distress call, the situation was worse than anyone had imagined. Prince Zektar was the first to speak. Show us what your ships can do. Admiral Kyung-ho looked at Dr. Hanul and Commander Taemin. They had hoped to avoid this demonstration, but circumstances had forced their hand. Very well. But understand, we're only doing this to save lives. They returned to their ships and the Imperial fleet watched as the single human vessel prepared to demonstrate its capabilities. Captain Velkar and his 12 heavy cruisers were still in attack formation around the Dauntless. Imperial fleet, Admiral Kyung-ho broadcast, please move your ships to minimum safe distance. We're about to show you why the Devourers fear human technology. Captain Velkar laughed. One small ship against 12 cruisers? This should be entertaining. On the Dauntless, Captain Sora was coordinating with the ship's engineer, Lieutenant Commander Dong Hyun. Engineering, prepare electromagnetic pulse array, set for non-lethal disable mode. Dong Hyun's hands moved over his controls with practiced ease. EMP array charged and ready. All Imperial vessels are locked onto target. Admiral Kyung-ho gave the order. Execute. What happened next changed everything the Empire thought they knew about warfare. The Dauntless didn't fire visible weapons. There was no energy beam, no missile launch, no explosion. Instead, every Imperial ship in the system simply stopped working. Lights went out. Engines shut down. Weapons powered off. Life support switched to emergency backup. In less than 2 seconds, the entire Imperial fleet was floating helplessly in space. On Captain Velkar's bridge, emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. Report, he shouted. His engineering officer was frantically checking his systems. Sir, every major system has been shut down by some kind of electromagnetic pulse, but it's not like any EMP we've ever seen. It's specifically targeted to disable our technology without destroying it. On Eternal Throne, Emperor Vexthul watched his mighty fleet become helpless with growing amazement and fear. How long until the ships are operational again? Vorgak was analyzing the data. The pulse seems to be wearing off gradually. I estimate full power restoration in exactly 1 hour. Admiral Kyung-ho's voice came over all communication channels. Imperial fleet, your ships will be fully operational in 1 hour. We have demonstrated that we could have destroyed your entire fleet if we had wanted to. We chose not to because we need you alive to fight the real enemy. Prince Zektar was staring at the tactical displays. One human ship had disabled hundreds of Imperial vessels without causing a single casualty. Father, we need to alliance with them immediately. But Admiral Morketh was furious. This is an act of war. They attacked our fleet. They saved our fleet, Vorgak corrected. If the Devourers had found us spread out like this, every ship would have been destroyed. Dr. Hanul was working with her quantum communication array. Admiral, I'm receiving transmissions from other Terran fleets throughout the galaxy. General Hai-Young is requesting an immediate conference with Imperial leadership. A holographic image appeared above the Dauntless's bridge. It showed a middle-aged human woman in military uniform, standing on the bridge of a massive warship. Behind her, dozens of human vessels moved in perfect formation. Emperor Vexthul, General Hai-Young said, I am General Hai-Young of the Terran Defense Force. We have 47 fleets positioned throughout your galaxy. Each fleet contains technology specifically designed to fight the Devourers. We offer you a choice. The Emperor listened from his throne room, surrounded by his advisors. You can work with us, the General continued. Combine our forces, share our technology, and fight together against the coming invasion. Or you can face the Devourers alone with your current technology. But choose quickly. Our scouts report the enemy will reach your core systems in 72 hours. Admiral Morketh was still angry about the demonstration. We don't negotiate with species that attack our fleets. General Hai-Young's expression didn't change. Admiral, we didn't attack your fleet. We showed you what the Devourers will do, except they won't give your ships back after 1 hour. Engineer Dong Hyun was monitoring Imperial communications. Admiral, their ships are coming back online now. All systems restored to full capability. Captain Velkar was amazed when his ship's power returned exactly on schedule. Every system was not only restored but seemed to be running better than before the pulse hit them. Vorgak noticed this improvement immediately. My lord, our ships aren't just restored. Their efficiency has increased by 12%. Somehow the human pulse cleaned our systems and optimized them. Prince Zektar turned to his father. They could have destroyed us, but instead they helped us. What more proof do we need of their intentions? Emperor Vexthul had ruled for 5,000 years, but he had never faced a decision like this. Accept help from aliens who had proven they were superior, or watch his empire be consumed by an enemy they couldn't fight. General Hai-Young, he said finally, what exactly are you proposing? The general's image smiled for the first time. Complete military integration. Your ships are weapons. Your knowledge of the galaxy, our experience fighting the Devourers, your people, our people working together to survive. And after the Devourers are defeated, then we'll see what kind of galaxy we can build together. In the distance, long-range sensors detected the first Devourer scout ships entering Imperial space. The time for decisions was running out. Captain Velkar's patience had run out. The strange ship had been sitting there for 2 hours, ignoring every demand to surrender. His 12 heavy cruisers surrounded it like wolves around a deer. All ships target their engines. Fire warning shots. The Imperial weapons lit up space with bright energy beams. They streaked past the human ship, close enough to heat its hull but not close enough to damage it. The message was clear. Surrender or the next shots would not miss. On the Dauntless, Dr. Hanul worked frantically at her science station. Admiral, I'm detecting quantum entanglement patterns in their communication systems. If I can match the frequency... Admiral Kyung-ho watched her work. Take your time, Doctor. Let them make the first real move. Captain Sora was studying the Imperial ships through their advanced sensors. Their weapons are powerful but simple. Pure energy discharge. No exotic matter, no quantum disruption. It's like they never learned to fight anything that could fight back. On Eternal Throne, Vorgak the Wise was becoming more worried by the minute. His instruments showed impossible readings from the human ship. My lord, I strongly recommend caution. This vessel is not what it appears to be. Emperor Vexthul was growing annoyed. Advisor, you sound like an old woman afraid of shadows. It's one ship against our entire fleet, but Prince Zektar was listening to Vorgak. What exactly are your sensors telling you? Vorgak's four eyes all focused on his data. The ship's power core is generating energy in ways that violate our understanding of physics. Their hull is made of materials that shouldn't exist. And somehow, they're scanning our entire system in detail while we can barely detect their engines. Admiral Morketh slammed his fist on the throne room's crystal table. Enough, Captain Velkar, destroy that ship immediately. But before Velkar could give the order, something incredible happened. Dr. Hanul's work paid off. The human ship began broadcasting on the exact frequency the Imperials used for scientific communication. The message was simple mathematics at first. 2 + 2 = 4. The square root of 9 is 3. But then it became more complex. Star charts showing the positions of every planet in the Imperial system, detailed scans of Imperial ship designs, information about Imperial trade routes that was supposed to be top secret. Vorgak nearly fell over when he saw the data. They know everything about us. Ship movements, defense patterns, even the location of our hidden military bases. Emperor Vextel was no longer bored. How is that possible? The human ship transmitted again. This time it was a voice speaking in perfect Imperial language. Dr. Hanul had learned their speech patterns from the radio signals they had been intercepting for decades. Imperial vessels. This is Dr. Hanul of the Terran Confederation vessel Dauntless. We request permission to open diplomatic communications with your leadership. Captain Velkar was so surprised he almost forgot to respond. Unknown vessel, identify yourself and explain how you learned our language. We have been observing your civilization for many years. We come in peace, seeking dialogue between our peoples. On the Dauntless, Admiral Kyung-ho nodded to Dr. Hanul. Well done, Doctor. Now comes the hard part. Commander Taemin was monitoring the Imperial fleet's weapons. Admiral, they're powering up for a full attack. I don't think they liked our little demonstration of knowledge. Kyung-ho sighed. He had hoped for a peaceful first contact, but 47 years of watching the Empire had taught him they only respected strength. Sora, what's our tactical situation? We're outnumbered 12-1, but their ships are designed for fighting primitives. If we need to defend ourselves, we can. The Emperor was having an emergency meeting with his advisors. The throne room was filled with nervous chatter. How could these aliens know so much about the Empire? Were they spies? Were they planning an invasion? My lord, Vorgak said carefully, I believe we should accept their request for diplomatic contact. We need to learn more about them before we make any decisions. Admiral Morketh disagreed completely. This is obviously a trick. They're probably working with our enemies, maybe the rebel systems in the Outer Rim. Prince Zektar had been thinking, Father, if they wanted to attack us, why send only one ship? And why warn us they were coming by demonstrating their knowledge? The Emperor considered this. For 10,000 years, every species the Empire had met was either weaker or equal to them. None had ever shown up with better technology. Very well. We will speak with them. But at the first sign of treachery, we destroy them. The diplomatic meeting was arranged to take place on a neutral Imperial station halfway between the fleets. Dr. Hanul, Commander Taemin, and Admiral Kyung-ho would represent humanity. Emperor Vextel would send Vorgak, Prince Zektar, and Admiral Morketh. When the human shuttle launched from the Dauntless, it caused another shock for the Imperials. Their sensors couldn't penetrate its hull or understand how its engines worked. The small craft moved through space like it was swimming through water, smooth and quiet. The meeting room on the neutral station was designed to accommodate different species. The humans sat on one side of a large table, the Imperials on the other. The first thing that surprised the Imperials was how normal the humans looked. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, very similar to several species already in the Empire. Dr. Hanul spoke first. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We represent the Terran Confederation, a union of human worlds that has been watching your galaxy with great interest. Vorgak leaned forward. Watching from where? Our long-range sensors cover this entire galactic region. Admiral Kyung-ho answered that question. From very far away. Our home galaxy is what you would call a neighboring star system cluster. We've been observing you through quantum telescope arrays. Admiral Morketh's 6 arms twitched with anger. You've been spying on us. We've been learning about you, Dr. Hanul corrected gently. Because we need to warn you about something terrible that's coming. Prince Zektar was intrigued. What kind of warning? Commander Taemin activated a small device that projected holographic images into the air above the table. The images showed a fleet of massive, organic-looking ships moving through space. They were dark and twisted like living nightmares. 200 years ago, these creatures attacked our home galaxy, Admiral Kyung-ho explained. We call them the Devourers. They consume everything in their path, planets, stars, entire civilizations. The hologram showed planets being stripped of all matter, leaving nothing but empty space behind. The Imperial delegation watched in horror as star systems vanished. We barely survived their first attack, Dr. Hanuel continued. It took everything we had to drive them back into deep space hibernation. But now they're waking up again and your galaxy is directly in their path. Vorgak studied the images carefully. These ships, they don't follow normal physics. How did you fight them? We had to completely redesign our technology, Commander Taemin said. Everything you see on our ship was built specifically to fight the Devourers. Our weapons, our engines, our shields, all of it. Admiral Morketh was suspicious. And you've come here out of the kindness of your hearts to warn us? Admiral Kyung-ho's expression became serious. We've come here because we need allies. The Devourers are too powerful for any one species to fight alone. We survived the first time by working together with every civilization in our galaxy. Prince Zektar asked the question everyone was thinking. How long do we have? Dr. Hanuel checked her readings. Based on their movement patterns and hibernation cycle, we estimate 6 months before they reach your outer systems. The room fell silent. 6 months to prepare for an enemy that could destroy planets. Then every alarm in the station began screaming at once. Something massive had just appeared on the long-range sensors, moving faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. Vorgak looked at his emergency communicator with terror in his 4 eyes. My Lord Emperor, the deep space monitoring stations are reporting multiple large contacts moving through hyperspace. Direction, toward the galactic core. Admiral Kyung-ho stood up slowly. It looks like our timeline just changed. The Devourers are awake early. The stars around the Vorthak system had been quiet for 300 years. Emperor Vexthul sat on his crystal throne inside the massive space station called Eternal Throne. The station was as big as a moon and home to millions of beings from across his empire. Outside the thick windows, hundreds of Imperial warships moved in perfect patterns around the system's bright star. Admiral Morketh stood beside the Emperor's throne, his 6 arms crossed behind his back. His purple skin showed the battle scars of 1,000 victories. My lord, the Outer Rim sectors report complete peace. No rebellions, no pirates, no problems. The Emperor nodded slowly. His ancient face had seen 5,000 years of rule. Good. Order must be maintained. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship Domination, Captain Velkar watched his screens with bored eyes. The same patrol route, the same empty space, the same nothing happening. His crew of 50 moved around the bridge like they had done every day for years. Sir, called his sensor officer, a young female with bright green skin. I'm getting a strange reading at the edge of the system. Velkar didn't even look up from his reports. Define strange. Energy spike, sir, but it doesn't match any known ship engine or weapon signature. Probably a solar flare. Log it and move on. But the sensor officer kept staring at her screen. The numbers kept climbing. Sir, this isn't a solar flare. Something is materializing out there. Now Velkar looked up. On the main screen, space itself seemed to be bending. Light twisted and turned like water going down a drain. Then with a flash that lit up the darkness, something appeared. It was a ship, but unlike anything in the Imperial database. Where Imperial ships were round and covered in weapons, this one was sharp and angular. Its metal surface was dark gray, almost black. No visible weapons, no communication arrays that they could recognize. It just sat there in space like a knife floating in water. Report, Velkar ordered. Length approximately 800 meters. Unknown hull composition. Power readings are... Sir, this can't be right. What are the readings? The sensor officer's voice shook slightly. The ship is generating power equal to our entire fleet combined. On Eternal Throne, the Emperor received the report with mild interest. Vorgak the Wise, his oldest advisor, studied the data with his 4 eyes. My lord, this vessel appeared without using any known faster-than-light technology. Our sensors detected no hyperspace distortion, no warp field, nothing. Perhaps they have better engines than us, said Prince Zektar, the Emperor's son. He was young and curious about new things. Admiral Morketh laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Impossible. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. No species has technology better than ours. The strange ship began transmitting. But instead of using normal communication channels, it broadcast on frequencies the Empire had never seen. The signals were mathematical sequences, star charts, and something that looked like music but made no sense. Dr. Yulneth, the Empire's best scientist, worked for hours trying to decode the messages. These mathematical patterns are incredibly complex. Whoever built this ship understands physics in ways we don't. Emperor Vexthal was growing impatient. Send a compliance fleet. Bring this ship to Processing Station 7. If they resist, destroy them. Admiral Morketh smiled. Yes, my lord. I'll send 12 heavy cruisers. That should be enough to handle one lost exploration ship. The Imperial compliance fleet moved toward the human vessel like predators surrounding prey. Each cruiser was twice the size of the strange ship and carried enough weapons to destroy a city. Captain Velkar led the formation in his flagship. Unknown vessel, he broadcast on all frequencies. You have entered Imperial space without permission. Surrender immediately or face destruction. On the bridge of the human ship Dauntless, Admiral Kyung-ho watched the approaching Imperial fleet with calm eyes. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. His uniform was simple and practical, nothing like the fancy clothes worn by Imperial officers. They're trying to talk to us, reported Captain Sora, his second in command. She was younger than Kyung-ho with sharp eyes and quick movements. But they're using very basic communication methods. What do you think of their ships? Kyung-ho asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Taemin studied his screens, big, slow, and covered in energy weapons. Their shields are strong but simple. No point defense systems that I can see. Dr. Hanul, the ship's science officer, looked up from her computer. Admiral, I'm reading their brain patterns through our sensors. They're confident, almost arrogant. They think we're helpless. Kyung-ho nodded. How long have we been watching them? 47 years, sir, Sora replied. Ever since our long-range scouts found this galaxy. And in all that time, have they improved their technology? No, sir. If anything, they've gotten slower and more comfortable. The Imperial fleet was now in attack formation around the Dauntless. Captain Velkar was becoming angry that the strange ship hadn't responded to his demands. All ships prepare weapons. On my command, we'll show them the power of the Empire. On Eternal Throne, Emperor Vexthal watched the situation with growing interest. What are they waiting for? Why don't they surrender? Vorgak studied the sensor readings with worry. My lord, their ship's power levels keep rising. Whatever they're doing, it's requiring enormous amounts of energy. Probably charging their engines to run away, Admiral Morketh said with contempt. Cowards always run when faced with real power, but Prince Zektar wasn't so sure. Something about this ship felt different. The way it moved, the way it just appeared from nowhere, the strange signals it was sending. Father, maybe we should try to talk to them more. Learn about them before we attack. The Emperor waved his hand dismissively. We are the Empire. We don't negotiate with primitives. Back on the Dauntless, Admiral Kyung-ho stood up from his command chair. He looked around at his crew, humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Attention all hands. We are about to make first contact with a galactic civilization. Everything we do in the next few minutes will determine the future of both our species. Captain Sora turned to him. Orders, sir? Kyung-ho smiled slightly. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had seen war and knew what was coming. Tactical stations. Show them what they're dealing with. In the space between the two fleets, the tension grew like a storm about to break. The Imperial ships waited for orders to attack. The human ship sat quietly, its dark hull reflecting the distant starlight, and across the galaxy, ancient sensors that had slept for thousands of years began to wake up, sensing the power that was about to be unleashed.